Welcome back to Ayastek. In this video, we have started work on the backend project. So we have created the basic file structure and also we have installed some libraries, Express MySQL. We have set up the MySQL database connection and also we have created our very first endpoint to create the contact. So this endpoint is created. So whenever user pass any data while calling this endpoint, that data would be inserted in the MySQL that you can see in our database tool. This is the tool where you can see that we have inserted all of the data with the help of the postman. So if you want to learn how we did that, please continue watching this video. In order to start work on the backend project, I will have to create a new folder in my computer and I would have to set up the basic files for the backend project. So for that, open your VS Code and open the terminal, open a new terminal, and then go back by using cd // and we will see right now we have only one folder that is front end, and now I need to create a new folder that would be mkdir, that would be backend. And now I am going to the backend folder by using cd command. Now I am inside the backend folder. So after that, I want to open this folder in my VS Code. For that, I would just type open space dot, press enter. Actually, not open. I wanted to use open. Instead of open, I want to use. So just type code space dot and press enter. So with that, you will see that VS Code has been opened within that empty backend folder. Now we have to link the GitHub repo that we already have made on GitLab. So I'm going to link it with my empty folder. And also, it is not compulsory for you to create a GitHub repo. It's up to you, but I recommend to use the GitLab repo or Git repo to manage your code. So let's do that. I'm going to clone it. So I will copy the clone URL, and after that, actually let's remove the backend folder because this clone command would create the backend folder by itself. So I'm going to remove it. So this is how you can delete a folder. Okay, now I am going to clone this repo, and this repo would have only one file, that is readme.md. So I did not create this file. This is auto-generated file, but this is how you can clone. So type git clone and space. Click on the clone and click on this. This would give you the URL that you want to clone and press enter. Now it is cloning. After cloning is done, you will notice that we have another backend folder in it. Open that folder and type open code space dot. That would open the backend folder in your VS Code, and you can see the README file that we have created already in the repository. So after this is done, it's time to start creating some files. So first of all, to start a Node.js project, you have to type npm space init. So that would initialize the Node.js project for you. Press enter. And it is now asking you the name of the project. For now, I will just press enter. It is asking you for the version, just press enter. I am just using the default values that are coming from the command line. And it is asking me that which entry point I want to use. I would say just use index.js, press enter, press enter. And now it is asking me that which GitHub repo we are using with this project. So it has automatically detected the URL from this folder of the Git repository. Press enter. Just keep entering and press enter once again. That would confirm all of these settings. After that is done, you will notice a new file package.json has been created. So this from here, you can start installing the libraries that we need to start the Node.js project. So first of all, we need the Express.js. Uh, so let's install the Express.js library. But for that, type npm install express and save. That would save the dependency of Express in this dependencies list. And also our node module folder has been created. And within that folder, this Express related dependencies have been downloaded. So after that is done, you will notice that if you are using Git, then you will notice that there are too many file changes it is telling us that we have made. But we did not make so many changes. We just created a package.json file, but it is telling me that I have created 425 files. So actually it is counting the node modules folder files. And it is best practice that we should not include the node modules folder in the Git commits. So that is not the best practice. So you have to exclude the node module from the Git commits. So for that you have to ignore that folder. So if you want to ignore any file, for that you have to create another file that is called git ignore .git ignore. Okay. So file has been created. In this file, you will have to provide the name or paths of the folders or files that you want to ignore. I want to ignore node modules. So if you save it, as soon as you save it, you will see that all of the files have been removed from the counter of source control, and now it is telling me the right number. Now it is telling me that I have changed only 3 files. So that is true because I have added the package.json and git ignore, and package.log.json is auto generated because of the installation that I have done. Okay. So after that, we have to create another file, the entry file that would be index.js. So in this index.js file, first of all, we have to import the Express library. For that, I'm going to define a variable let express is equal to require express, and then let app is equal to call the express variable. That would create an app, and I have stored that app in the app variable. Now I'm going to uh, start listening on a specific port through my app. For that, type app.listen. In the app.listen, we have to pass 2 parameters. First parameter would be the port where you want to listen. So for now, I will use 3400. You can use any port. And in the second parameter, I have passed a callback function. In there, that callback function, that function would be called as soon as this application is live on the provided port. So here I want to console any message if app is live. So I would say HTTP app is running on HTTP localhost, and the port would be 3400. So this is how you will access your Node.js app. After that is done, I am going to create my first endpoint to make sure that if it is working or not. So for that, I would type app.get and So here basically I am creating a REST API endpoint with the get method, and first parameter reflects the path of the endpoint. So, and the second parameter is actually a function where you will have to pass at least two parameters. You have to expect for two parameters. First parameter would be request, and second would be response. So in the request variable, you will be able to access all of the values that are coming with the request that you have sent from your browser. And in the response, you have all of the functions that you want to use, or all of the properties that you want to use to send a proper response back to the client. So for that, uh, I'm just going to return a response for that type response.send. And in the send, you can provide any text that you want to return back. So here I would just provide the heading tag, and in that heading, I will say hello world. Okay. So let's see if that is working. But before testing that, we will have to run this project, because right now this project is not running at all. So we have to start it. So to start the project, you will have to type node index.js. Okay. And now if you go back and actually I will have to type localhost 3400, and here you can see that we have the hello world visible on the default endpoint. You can change the path of the endpoint anytime. For example, I want to use test. So if user hit the test endpoint on the get method, then you will see this response. So I have saved it, and if I try to reload it, you will notice that my actually before doing that, I'm going to add a different text. Hello, tech. So I will save it again. Now reload it. You can see that we have changed the endpoint path, and we also have changed the content of the response, but it is still showing me the old content on the old endpoint. So logically, this endpoint should stop working because this endpoint does not exist anymore. And we must have to type the test to access the latest endpoint. But you can see that this endpoint is not accessible. The reason is that we have saved the file, but server is not restarted. So every time you make any change in your files, you will have to restart your server. You have to stop your server and start it again. So let's do that. I'm going to stop it and run the same command again. And now if you reload it, you will see that this latest endpoint is available, and text in it, the response is also visible. So that is good, but if you make any more change, it will not show it again, and again you will have to stop it and start again. And that is not a good practice, and it is not convenient at all for a developer. So it should be automated. So whenever you make any change, then it should restart the server for you automatically. You don't have to, you should not restart the server every time. It waste a lot of time, and most of the time you will forget to restart your server, and you will be worried that why your changes are not reflecting. So in order to make it automated, you have to install another library in your package.json, and we call it Nodeman. Okay, so right now we have only one dependency. This is the main core dependency that we need. And this time, the dependency we are going to depend on, that is actually development dependency. You need that dependency only while you are doing development. After development is done, you don't need that dependency. So for that, you will have, while you are installing this new package, you have to specify that this is a development dependency. So for that, just type npm install, and here you will type nodemon, and after that I will type save dash dev. So with the help of this flag, you will see that node1 has been saved in a separate dependency list, that is development dependencies. So after that, we will have to write a script here. So I'm going to remove this one, and here I will uh, create a script that would be a dev. You can name it anything, whatever you want. I mostly name it dev. So, and here you will type nodemon, and after space, you have to specify the file name that you want to watch. So I have typed the index.js. So whenever you will run this dev command, dev script, that would run this command. And if this command is run, then nodemon will start the index.js file in watch mode. The meaning of watch mode is that it would keep an eye on your code. So whenever you make any change in your code, it would immediately restart the server for you by itself, and it would be reloaded for you. So let's try it. So I'm going to run npm run dev. Let's see. Okay, you can see that nodemon command is run that we have added in this script, and this file is started, and this console log is printed in my terminal. So that's mean my app is live now. So you can reload it to see if it is working or not. So now let's try to make some change, and we will see if this change reflects automatically without reloading the app. So I will not reload it. It should be reloaded automatically. So hello world, I am going to save it. You can see that as soon as I hit the save, the app is restarted automatically. Now, if you reload it, you will see the latest change has been appeared automatically. So that is a great tool that you will always be using in your project. So now our testing has been completed. So I'm going to uh, commit these changes so that after that I could start working on actual endpoints that I need in my real app. So my commit would be set up basic files. Okay, commit and push it. So my changes are live now. If you reload this, so if you reload it, you will notice that my files are visible here now. Okay. So after that is done, now I want to work on one endpoint at a time. So my first endpoint would be to create a contact. I want to create a contact. So whenever user fill this form, and if user clicks on the save button, then I want to create a new contact so that I could display that contact in this list. Okay. So whenever you create something, you receive a data from the client. We mostly use the post method. That is the best recommendation. So I have used the post method, and in this endpoint, I will rename it with create. Okay, and so now let's test this create endpoint. I am going. So while you are working on endpoints, REST API endpoints, you want to test it. So to test it, uh, I won't. I don't want to test it in my actual app until it is ready. So I would use the Postman. So open the Postman, and you can easily test your endpoints in the Postman. So I also recommend you to install the Postman in your computer. That is very helpful tool for you. Okay. Uh, I will create a new tab here, and here you have to specify the path that you want to hit. So first of all, you need to provide the base URL. My base URL is HTTP localhost colon. Then you have to provide the port. After providing the port, you have to mention the endpoint name here. So my endpoint name is create, and here you have to select the method that you want to access. Now, if I hit on this method on this endpoint, you should see a response like this. You can see that response is visible. So that's mean this endpoint is working correctly. After that, whenever you create uh, create a contact, you have to pass some data. And this is the minimum data you have to pass to create a contact. And the data is full name, email, phone, and website. So this is how you can pass data to your endpoint. Go to the body tab and click on the raw. And here, click on the JSON. In the JSON, pass the every property that you want to send. I want to send the full name, and full name would be Riaz, and email would be xyz@gmail.com, and phone would be anything, and website would be https www.ayaztech.com. Now, if I click on that, this data would be received on the endpoint that I have created on the backend. Okay. Now I want to make sure if I can access the data that is sent from the postman. So to access this data is mostly available in the request.body. So I am going to console.log request.body to see if that data is visible or available or not. So let's see if that works out. Now, if I click on the send button, you will see that in the console, I did not receive the body that I am getting from the postman. And in fact, I am getting the undefined value from the body property. So something is wrong. Actually, whenever you send a JSON from your request, you have to configure your application to receive the JSON. So this is how you can configure it. Type, you have to use a middleware in your application, and this is how you can use a middleware. Type app.use, and in the middleware, you have to pass app dot, actually not app, it would be express.json. So this should be this middleware should be before defining any endpoint, then it would work. Now let's try it again. I will hit the send button again, and this time you can see that all of the data that I am sending from the postman from the body is visible and available in the body property of the request. Now it's up to me. I can utilize this data. I can use this data to save the contact in the database. So to save the data in the database, we normally use MySQL. So to use MySQL, you have to install another library that is MySQL. So let's install another library. So open a new terminal and type npm install MySQL and -- save. Let us search from the internet as well to see if this is the latest best available library or not. So npm MySQL library. Okay, let's install it. So in your VS Code, just press enter, and observe the package.json file, you would notice that we have another dependency available, that is MySQL. So as now MySQL has been installed, so now we are ready to use the MySQL here. So let's look at the documentation provided by the MySQL to see how it works. So if you look at that, it is telling the same steps. It is saying that install it, and after that is installed, it is saying that you have to import the MySQL, then you have to create a connection, and after connection is created, you have to call the connect function. After connect, it is connected. After this function is called, then you can use the query function to run the queries that you want to run. So, and that's it. So let's start. So here I want to create another file. So let's create another folder that would be source. And in the source, I would create another folder that would be common. And in the common, I need another file that would be database.js. So in the database, I am going to include let MySQL is equal to include MySQL. Actually, not include, it is the require. And I have required the MySQL. After that, I can create my connection. And I'm going to create this connection in a variable. Let connection is equal to this. And then we have to pass an object to this function to provide some values that are required. For example, we need host. In the host, you have to provide the host address, and then you need to provide the user. After that, you need to provide the password, and at the end, you need to provide the database name. Okay. So after that, I need to call the connect function. And once connect function is done, then we can call the query function. So connect.query, and in the query, you can pass any query. So before doing anything else, the very first question is that, do we have the database? So to run all of this code, you must have a MySQL database ready to be ready and available to use. So I am assuming that you already have a database, uh, either it is created locally or in the live server that you can use. So for me, I am already using hosting provided by the hostinger. So I can easily create a database for me. So I will create the database very quickly, and then I will use it with my project. So if you don't have any database and you want to easily create a database, then you can also buy a hosting from hostinger, and you can uh, create a database with the help of their panel, and then you can use it. So it's up to you. Either you can install it locally, or if you don't know how to install locally, then you can just buy it and you can start using it. So this is how I'm going to use it. So I will go to my hosting, and from there I will search for the database. So this is MySQL databases. Click on that, and from there I will provide any name. So I would say Google Contacts, Contacts Clone. So this is the database name, and you can provide any username. I'm going to use the same name for the username as well. And here I will provide the password. It is also it also provides you a tool to generate password. So that is also very helpful. So let's create it. Okay. So the database has been created and now I can use it very easily. I have copied the password that was provided by the tool. So paste it here in the password section. And next, I need the username and passwords, username and the database name. So username and database name is the same. Now we need the host address. So in order to find the host address, go to the dashboard, and I guess this IP address is the host address that you can use. Just copy it, paste it here, and save it. Now, if you run your project, then this should work. So let's see if that works or not. So we have to export the connection that we have made here. So type export, or actually type exports dot default. Exports default is equal to, maybe it is exports dot module, I guess. Let me see. So this is how you can export. So you have to type module dot exports is equal to object, and in this object you have to provide all of the variables or functions that you want to export. So I want to export only connection at this time. So I have provided the connection. Now I want to import it. To import that, for example, here I want to run a query. So I would say connection. And if you type connection, VS Code gives you a suggestion that there is already a property that can be imported from this file. Just click on that and it would import the variable for you from that file with the correct path. So in the connection dot query, now you can use it very easily. Okay. So we are still not able to do anything because we don't have any table yet. So we have to create a table to save the context. So let's create a table. So first of all, we have to open this database in a UI tool. So you can use any client to open your database. There are several clients available. One is MySQL Workbench that can be downloaded from this website. This is free tool that you can download and use. As I am using Hostinger, so I don't need to use any other tool because Hostinger provides me a very nice tool out of the box that is called PHP So you can just come into your hosting panel, and after your database name, you will see we have the PHP button. You can click on that. That would open the panel for you, PHP and in this tool you can easily control and manage your database. So let's see how it works. So after it is open, you can see uh, we have this view. Here you can create a new table. I want to create a table for the contact, so I would name it contact. And I want to have a few columns in it. The column would be the number of column would be equal to the number of the information that we need. We need uh, full name, email, phone, website, and picture. So that's mean we need 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 fields in that database. So let's provide 5. Okay. Now click on the go button. And actually, instead of 5, I need 6 because one would be for the ID. Okay. So ID. Then I need full name. Then phone, email, website, photo. Okay. So next, the ID should be unique and primary key, and it should automatically be incremented. So for that, click on the AI. That's mean auto increment, and that would make it primary automatically. After that, we need to make full name string. You can use varchar, that is a string, and here you can specify the length. I would say 255 for now. You can reduce it if you want. I am just adding 255 for everything. But normally, phone and email fields are not that long, so you can make it smaller as well if you want. So similarly, website and photo would also be varchar. And name should cannot be null, but phone, email, actually not phone, email, website, and photo can be null. Okay, so now click on the save button. Okay, after that is done, if you go back to the database, you will see that now we have one table created that is available to use. If you click on that table, you will see all of the data if there is any data available. Okay, now it's time to insert the data that we are getting from the postman. So to insert data, we have a insert query. Let's type insert into contact. And here you need to add parentheses to mention the list of the value fields that you want to use. For example, I want to use full name. I want to use email. I want to use phone, email, website. Okay. For now, these are sufficient. I would add photo as well later. So next, add values, and I am assuming that you already have the basic knowledge of SQL language for MySQL. So if not, then you can easily learn it from internet, from YouTube. So in the values, you have to provide all of the values in the same order that is mentioned here. So first it should have the full name. For now, I'm hard coding the values. Then I would replace the hard coded values with the dynamic values that are coming in the body. So first of all, let's add it. ABC 1, 2, 3, XYZ, and CCC. After that, we have to pass another parameter that is actually callback function. So once query is executed, you will have three parameters received. One is error, second one is result, third one is fields that you may not need right now. So if there is any error, then I want to see it in the console.log error. And if there is no error, then show a console that data is inserted successfully. Okay. Now, as soon as I saved, I can see an error that is saying me that access denied. for this user. Something is wrong. Let's see what's wrong here. It is not working. The connection is not working. The reason is that we did not enable the remote database. So let's go back here, and you can see we have the remote MySQL section, and here we have to enable the remote database. So for that, click on the any host. That would allow any host to access this database remotely. And then here I will select the database that I want to make available remotely. And also it is telling me this is the host name that I have to use. So just copy this host name. I was using incorrect host name. So just replace that host name with this one. Okay. And now just click on the create. After that is done, you can easily use this database remotely. Now stop the server and run it again. And now if you save this file again, then we should not see any error. You can see that now I cannot see any error. That's mean probably database is already connected successfully. So let's try. In order to try, we have to call this function, and this function can be called if this endpoint is hit. Something is wrong. So I am getting the connection reset error. So this is not the credential error. This is something else. So normally I use different function to create connection to solve this problem. So I would just use create pool. So if you use this function, then it would never fail like this. So let's try it again. So if you are creating a pool, then you should not call the connect function. No need to call that function. Okay, now there is no error so far. So now if I hit my endpoint, then this query would be executed. And if everything is correct, then I would see this console in the terminal. So now let's go back to the postman and hit the send button again and go back here. You can see I can see a console data is inserted successfully. That's mean it worked. Now in order to double check, go back to the PHP myadmin and refresh the page. You should see the data. You can see that data has been inserted successfully. So that is perfect. Now I want to, instead of using the hard-coded data, I want to use the data that is coming from the request body. So let's use it instead. Here I would replace the hard-coded data with this one, request.body.fullname. And then here I need email, and email is available. Actually, let me first add it in every value first, then I will replace the properties. So in the second parameter, I need the email. So type email, and then we need phone field. So type phone. Then we need website. So replace it with the website. Okay, now let's test to see if we provide data, then that data should be saved in the database. So let's hit it again. And instead of showing this message, I'm going to cut it from here and I would paste it here. Actually, let's replace this console.log with the request.send. Okay. Something is wrong. Actually, I have to use the response not send. That was the mistake. But data has been inserted already, you can see. All right. You can try it again. So I'm going to click the send button again, and you will see this response that data is inserted successfully. And if you reload, you will see that same data has been inserted again. Now I want to try with a different values. So so now click on the send button. Let's see if different values are saved or not. You can see now it can save any values coming from the postman. So now our create endpoint is ready to be used. Now we can use it in the front end